Okay, call order Finance and HR Committee to order. We stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get used to the new HR part. Roll call, please.
Ermeling.
Here.
Barr.
Here.
Hackbarth. Here. Meinel.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Maloney.
Here.
Any public comments? No, nor.
Just staff and Linda are online.
Okay. Minutes from previous meeting, May 19th.
I have a note on those, on page 4 for my motion reference the cell phones. And if I'm remembering incorrectly, I could be in a month, but with my motion, I believe President Maloney had asked to include the Board of Trustees in that review for cell phones, and I had amended my motion at that time to include them. It just says in here specifically, all staff below the Board of Trustees. So I'm not as worried about this being corrected. I just want to make sure that when you guys are working on that project, that President Maloney's request to include them is also part of it.
We can do that.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Maloney.
Second.
Oh, Steve. I heard a voice over there. Maybe we'll go over.
I know.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Okay. That off. Acknowledge work products transmittal. May budget status report.
Move to acknowledge.
Motion by Maloney,
One second.
second.
Brent.
Brent. On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Tip 1 and 2 detail reports for May. What's your pleasure? Any questions or concerns or?
I'll make a motion to acknowledge tip 1 and tip 2 detail report.
Second? Right, second by fire. On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Legal details for May. Any questions or concerns on this? What's your pleasure?
Do we need to do anything with that since there wasn't any legal expenditure? in
Say
the-
it's all blank.
Is he just behind again? Or what? Isn't this the attorney?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes they would go like month or so
We
and,
just got it last week.
oh, you did? Oh, you did. Okay. So just not in time for this. Okay, got it.
Okay, so then we don't
Must be
have-
doing pretty good.
Yeah. Good month.
I'd be billing the next day.
Okay, there was no details for May, so we will continue on. Educational presentation and reports. Item 8, discussion and or action on adoption of section 10.26 body camera usage for non-law enforcement personnel in the conduct and behavior chapter of the employees' personnel policies and procedure handbook. What's your pleasure on this one?
Did we have more work on this or no? Or did we just want to look at it more? Because
Some edits that were brought back.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
But
And
I did want to have the attorney review it before we were done.
yeah, and I put in the RFC that Attorney Edie didn't have an opportunity to review it because I had a conversation with Mountain Bay Metro about the potential of if we could do some shared camera and storage opportunities. And we can't, just the way that the system is set up. It might be something that we can do in the future because they do, as they make changes, if things are stored differently than how they happen now, because they would have equipment that we could use, we just wouldn't have access to the data, the way that the system is set up. So that just took a little time because that works through county IT, city county IT. So that just took a little time to research to see where we were at. So I did make the amendments to the policy But because we were trying to explore whether or not the equipment and the storage could happen through the police department, it just didn't get a chance to get to the attorney this month. But I didn't want the committee to think that it got forgotten about, that just took a little while to work through. So if the amendments look like they were made correctly based off of the discussion from last month, then I thought I could forward that to the attorney, and it would have to probably come back for an additional month, but I know we talked last month, it's something that's important, so if it takes a little time, that's okay.
Yeah.
The one concern I had was just the consistency. I think I asked, I thought the chief was here for that portion, might have been, and I think when they're on all the time.
Mhm.
They don't have the ability to turn them on and off. And I think right now, the way this sits, we can turn them on or off. So if we go to an inspection and we start feeling like there might be something, that needs to be recorded or something in a negative way, then we have the ability to turn it on. At that point, are we gonna tell that person we're turning it on? Because it says in here that if we turn it off, we have to tell them why we're gonna turn it off. That it could be a privacy thing, but it just seems like there's a lot of different ways that we could have it on and off. Just concerns me a little bit. I just believe if we feel it's so necessary that the inspectors have camera usage, then I think they should have them all the time. That's just my opinion. If I'm not in the majority, I'm okay with it. But that's my opinion.
I guess I agree with if they are at a site that they're just inspecting and there's nobody there, it's kind of silly to have the camera on, but if they're inspecting and there is other people there, it might be a good idea to have it,
Most law enforcement agencies have something similar to, I know, Weston, Mountain Bay. Anytime you're in contact with a member of the public, it's on. I mean, that could be something as
Is it
simple
when you
as,
get out of the?
basically, if I'm talking to any member of the public, it's on.
So when does it go on?
We turn it on.
Oh,
We're
you do?
required to.
So you
like,
have the ability to actually turn it on?
yeah, so the camera
Okay.
itself, you can turn it on and off right on the camera. So, and obviously like things
And
like.
audio too?
Yeah, when the emergency lights turn on, obviously they turn themselves on, but most of the time, if it's just a run of the mill, like even if it's like I'm helping you chase your dog, the camera's on because they're in contact with a member of the public.
Okay, that
So-
might be a good
Mhm.
wording in there, just to say it is on when in contact.
So we're trusting the officers to know when it's appropriate to turn it on and off. Would presumably the same rules apply for the non-law enforcement bases? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, it's just whatever policy says. I mean, so from the law enforcement perspective, that's just written in the policy. And just like any job that you have, right? If you don't follow policy, there's disciplinary procedures that could occur as a result of that. So yeah, I mean, it's not trusting the officers, it's telling them like, this is the policy, you have to follow it. And that is, I think, a pretty common policy, I know in this area, but even.
I'd be
on a
fine with that.
Larger scale.
That to me
Yeah,
would
I'd be
make.
fine with that, yep.
So is that in, I don't think that's in.
I don't
here,
think
is
so.
it?
So right now, the situations would be on-site code enforcement activities where there's going to be an interaction with the property owner or their designee. Noticing of enforcement actions, stop work order, a raise and replace order. Detailed property inspections like new construction, residential, commercial. And then this was from the discussion last time, situations where safety is a fundamental concern, i.e. unexpected escalation of seemingly routine interaction. What would be exceptions of the policy would be routine property maintenance, i.e. fence permit, or a code enforcement action that does not involve the inspector leaving the vehicle and or interacting with the property owner or designee.
Sounds almost.
I think if you take the question of, I'm with the public, I turn it on.
Right.
Because at what point do you feel it's escalating?
Right.
And so I'm a resident, I'm the taxpayer, and I feel like it happened way sooner than the inspector did. Or an officer, but the officer has it on if he's or she is working with me. I just think that takes the doubt out of it and the question of when should have I turned it on?
Yeah, the benefit if we could have, and again, it might be an option in the future, but it's not now, is the cameras with Mountain Bay have the 30-second look back period. So if we had a situation that escalated, the camera would have been recording for 30 seconds prior and you would have caught the 30 seconds before the escalation. But our cameras don't do that. They just don't have that. They're not as advanced as
But
theirs.
theirs are turned on.
And a lot of times that
Public.
30-second look back period is video only, not audio. So I mean, there's that consideration too. I mean, I don't know. Trying to remember if Axon has the ability to turn on audio as well for the 30-second look back period. I don't know of agencies that do that audio too. So, I mean,
I just think maybe adding having examples of what, but when in contact with residents or people, not residents, you can't say, but
The public.
public,
Yes.
that camera would be on,
Mhm.
like you know.
and Jamie, I think we talked about this last time, but is storage currently a concern? Like if you run these every time you're with somebody and you're there for a 3-hour inspection, you're not have a 3-hour video, right? And that adds up pretty quick, even though it's only a couple cameras.
Yeah, at this point, it's not a concern. We talked about that with Nate, and if it becomes a concern, we can explore that, but at this moment, it's not. But again, we have every video we've taken. I mean, part of having the policy too will also allow us to know when we can start to get rid of videos. So storage is not a concern at this time.
What percentage of time would the inspector be with another person? You know, when they're out doing, are there a lot of times they do a tour of the building alone? Inspecting, or do you always go, I mean, when the firemen come through our building, I never go with them. I just always have apples and oranges when they leave, or peanuts, to make them happy. As a little
It's
joke.
usually people
Yeah.
on site,
They on site, then they usually go with them, okay,
or they're there, because they're
For
still working
questions,
on something
yeah.
else.
okay.
Or they want to know what the results are. They kind of, my understanding is Roman and Travis kind of use it as a educational, like if they'd
Mhm.
see something, because they're working with a lot of, they're finding the same issues on it. So if it's on a framing, they can say, well, this is, then they might not find it on another building.
Well, plus it refreshes them,
Right.
so when they go back and look at their notes or talk about it here, they can look at that and it refreshes the entire conversation. And it actually shows them what they were looking at,
Right.
And that's exactly, I mean, it's
That'd be a huge
evidentiary too,
benefit, yeah.
like if somebody appeals something to this board or to the courts. I mean, it's one thing to say it occurred, here's another one to say, oh, look, it's actually on my camera, you can see it.
Mhm.
But
And if we have a policy where it says anytime you interact with people, it's always
Done
on,
deal.
there's the somebody trying to say, hey, look, why are you videoing me when you don't do it for somebody else? I think you avoid that argument, you avoid discrimination risks,
Yep.
you avoid a lot of that kind of stuff by just
I agree.
having a policy to have it on anytime we interact. And it's like the evidentiary piece, and you can go back and I like that.
I agree.
where do you fall on this, Jennifer? Like, I mean, to go from 0 to 100, right? We're going from like really never having cameras, just starting to now we're just gonna make them be on all the time. That's a really big change. So I guess where do you fall on that, or where do you think staff would fall on not sort of incrementally doing something and going from 0 to 100?
I don't think Roman thought they'd be using them all the time for the construction aspect of it, the inspections. I mean, things have gotten a lot different handling the enforcement side of things. I know that Valerie and I have had, well, typically if people are coming into the office here and they're mad, we're interacting with them mad here. So on site, it's a good thing. They tend to go to those kind of situations together anyway, just because there's always been that he said, she said kind of thing. So, I mean, we'll do whatever you guys think is necessary. It's just,
Is it going to be any more work other
No,
than
just
flipping
turn
the
it on.
camera on?
And then you don't even have to think about it. I mean, the whole thought of the officer camera is protection. It's
right,
for your own self, and not really the opposite. And I think the same thing here. It's really protection, like you said, learning, that you can learn and you can look at it later and refresh, talk to others about it. And
Or
I
even
think it's
if you've got somebody that says, well, you didn't tell me that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And not that you want to say, yes, I did. I mean, you could just say, oh, this is our conversation.
right. It's been used over the years
Sure.
on things.
Yeah. I would like it. I mean, if I had it, I would love to just, okay, I'm walking up on John Doe or Sally and I'd hit the button and go.
Well, I'm sure people, knowing they're being recorded, handle things a little bit differently too,
That's okay.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
For the
or you
better.
hope.
For the better.
Okay, but I guess that would be the addition then.
Yep, so I just want to clarify that, so in instead of the 4 situations under operation, it would really just be one. It would be anytime there's interaction with the public. What I might do then is put some examples underneath, but they wouldn't be, they wouldn't be reasons, they just would be examples of interactions with the public. But 5, there would still be the exception where there is no involvement. If the inspector never leaves the vehicle and takes a picture from the vehicle, they would not have to have the camera on.
Right.
I'm a little nervous on the examples of the public. Because it's pretty clear that if you're dealing with the public, it's on.
Okay.
If you have examples, well, it wasn't one of my 5 examples. And not that I'd want to be a stinker, but you gave me 5 examples and that wasn't one of them. So I think if we just clearly state, if you're interacting with the public, it's on.
It's on, okay.
And then the one where if you're in your vehicle.
Yeah.
And you're not, you know,
Mhm.
then, you're not interacting with the public.
Do we want to differentiate between in this building or in the field? Like if somebody comes in and is upset about something from an inspection standpoint, they start yelling at Jennifer, do we want Jennifer to turn it on too? Or are we thinking that's because there's more people around from a safety?
Guess what?
I don't have one.
But I'm just saying, like, in this building, I mean, if we're talking from a he said, she said situation, protection, like, if there's other people around in the building, are we good with them not using them in this building? Just because obviously you turn one on in this building, you have to be cognizant of what else is it recording unintentionally versus out in the public. I don't know if that's something we want to consider.
How does the police do it? If it's in the precinct, do you have to,
If you are talking to a cop, it's on. Like,
no
and I
matter
mean,
where you're at?
if you're like in an interview room at the police department, but like there's obviously, staff only areas where they wouldn't be on. So that's why I just wondered, do we wanna, because the way we're saying it right now is basically if an inspector's talking to a member of the public, it's on, it don't matter where they are. So do we want to consider maybe making this building the exception? Because there's always somebody else around, there's always other governmental operations going on.
I would say, I mean, like Roman Travis in particular, they also do other things like line locating of electrical services, or
Yeah.
they take care,
Yeah.
so, I mean, I don't know if there's something in there as far as like used during their inspections, code enforcement, job description. I don't know how to phrase that, but like if they're out working on an HVAC system and they, they're talking to PGA who's also out there, like,
Yeah,
the
they-
policy technically would say you're out of this building, you should have your camera on.
And again, you don't want to create needless records, right? Because obviously everything we keep is a public
I
record.
would say public means customer, means taxpayer, means the end user, means the ones that's paying, means the one that's building something. So PGA would not be. I mean, how often does that ever become something
Well,
of,
sometimes they'll go to a plumbing inspection and PGA is the customer.
oh, well, that's probably.
So I guess that's the little nuance maybe where
Yeah.
in their roles
But
that,
as in doing in
Mhm.
village inspections or whatever, I mean, anytime they are.
I guess the exception maybe is while performing duties as the building maintenance manager or something like that.
And I think I would probably push for this building being an exception. Nothing stops them from turning it on. I mean, if somebody comes in here and starts throwing chairs at Jennifer, I mean, I'd hope somebody starts recording it while they're calling the cops, but like,
Yeah.
I would say this is the exception of where they're required
Okay.
to turn that on, just because again, there's how many things going on all day
Right.
long that we may
Makes
not
sense.
necessarily want on reporting.
So you got
Now,
that?
does all that go to the attorney? Are we still going to the attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
I would
Okay.
make those changes. It would get sent to Attorney Edie, and then it
Yep.
would be brought
Okay.
back next month with his opinion.
I would also like,
Good.
Is that good?
I'm to,
All right.
on the
We don't need a
records
motion.
retention,
Okay.
or,
really good time.
No, I think right now we're just sending it to the attorney.
Yeah, I was just gonna
We made
say.
some changes, and it'll go back to Attorney Edie.
Okay, number 9, zero-based budgeting, parks. Jessica, is that you, I assume?
Sure, so in the packet, you'll see the work papers that we use for the Parks Department. Parks Administration is usually our full-time employees, Jess, Dawn, and Clayton and Anthony. Parks Maintenance, that usually includes the highway guys when they're out helping out with parks maintenance. It also includes our temporary wages. DPW mowing, that is more of your road right-of-way mowing. We have Tree City USA, The Parks Department does participate in that, and yearly Jess Falkowski will run this information and use it to fill out the form that we do to renew our Tree City verification every year.
Are we, so just on the one item of mowing, are we able to pull up?
We are
mowing?
now, so if you look at the
Okay.
budget status this year, we can look at it.
Yep.
We kind of approved it already, but in the budget status for May, if you look at the parks, we have park mowing and DPW mowing. So we
Right.
have two different mowings. One's more of the road right away, and the other one is parks. This is the first year that we have initiated keeping track of park mowing. So you can see that, because I know
Okay.
you've been asking for a few
Well,
years.
just so we can kind of look at what is it over last year, over the year before? And then we have a lease agreement, I think, with, on the north side, right? Don't we still have them cutting lawns for us?
Yeah, that was gonna comment on that.
Yeah,
It's,
they cut the business park,
yeah.
river,
Riverview.
Thank you.
Riverview.
Yeah, they,
But like the hospital, when they have, not Zabels, what's the?
Revi.
Yeah, Revi is them, right? So we do some of the stuff around there, because I've seen us do the boulevards and stuff. But when they're doing that massive area on the hospital grounds, that's Revi and that's them. They're doing their own, okay? So are we able to look, I mean, once we get enough data over years, we'll be able to see more mowing, less mowing? You know, are we productive? And then now we're pulling mowing out of the boulevard on 12th Avenue, some of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff where if we identify, you know, we're having less mowing, yet we're still having the same hours. Sometimes it's not just salaries, because salaries are increasing. But it's also hours, you know, that, what, is it still the same hours? Is it more? Why is it more? You know, are we not as productive? I don't know. I just, some of that stuff I kind of look at, you know, snow plowing, you can't, what do you do with snow plowing? I mean, that's so variable. There's no fixed equation to that. And the variable side is, you just can't control it sometimes.
I got a question on the contract mowing. You know,
Mhm.
I guess I'm just wondering the cost of it, versus say having a part-time summer person doing it. What is,
Yeah, so like the mowing that's contracted out in the business park is currently paid through the TIF. So I mean, when the TIF closes, I guess that's a discussion of, do we look to add another seasonal position to maintain that, or how, or do we?
They're not doing the kayak launch anymore on Ross, because they used to.
They mowed like the lift station right there.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So like our wells, lift stations, water tower sites, like the water sewer utility buildings are maintained, or we do contract that mowing out too, just so that they're
Just,
maintained on a more regular basis, because some of them are in residential neighborhoods.
and do we put that out to bids every year or two?
We have in the past, and nobody, Riverview really hasn't changed their price since they were
Okay.
still Scott's, like.
Well, that's probably cuts to
Yeah.
that, so,
you
yeah.
know, well, my concern, I thought was, you know, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, if we hired one or two part-time summer help to do that, I don't know cost effectively, do we have to buy more equipment?
Yeah, I mean,
And
we,
gas and all, how,
Trailers.
what is the, you know, the cost for us to do it, including equipment, gas and all that, versus having someone that we're hiring, because I know they're not cheap, so. I mean,
yeah,
How long has Riverview been doing it?
over 15 years.
At least, yeah.
We put it up, we've sought quotes several different times, and I mean, they're a lot less.
Right, but have you or Sean done an analysis as far as what she's asking, and if we had the equipment, you had part-time summer staff or
Yeah.
whatever? Has that been done at all in the
And we
15
can
years?
look at that, I mean, so that mowing isn't included on anything you see here. That mowing is in the water and sewer budget as well as the TIF budget, it's not in the parks budget.
But it will.
But it is something
it will
In
be.
the tip.
It will, yeah.
be. And there's a lot of mowing there.
I mean,
I look at the mowing and I just scratch my head. I mean, so we're mowing that huge boulevard out by Clucks, right?
yeah, so the one by Clucks is in here,
Okay.
because that would be the DPW mowing. 'Cause
Right.
we take care of that, so that's rough mowing that we do, yes.
Yeah, and
And it needs,
Over the years, and this is gonna sound terrible, but over the years, I mean, I don't get the same service at the grocery store like I used to. But over the years, every telephone pole, every sign, everything, there's more and more grass that doesn't get cut.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure we don't weed whack all the time. I'm sure once in a while we weed whack, but there was a time when we used to do all that. And there was also a time when we never threw snow out in the street. And that happens all the time. So, and I don't, is that supposed to happen? Okay.
We shouldn't be throwing snow into the
Yeah,
street.
into the street, the roundabout where I go through
Yeah.
constantly. And I think that all goes into the river. Cause if that's gonna get rained out, that'll go into the stuff and all of those catch basins are going into the river.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, cause I got a little fish by mine. That tells me that that's going to the river, so. Anyway, it's a little fish, that means that whatever you put in that, in my sewer off my curb, that means that it's directly fed into the Eau Claire River. Which I had to actually ask the question, cause I thought somebody was graffitiing my street, so, with
oh,
a fish.
okay, it's on.
It's a little white fish.
It's
It's
on
just-
the
painted
storage
on your
rings.
thing,
Yeah, right in
okay.
there, yeah.
All right, I could, you had lost me down the block away.
I was lost when I first saw it, so trust me.
Okay.
I was having my house redone in 2016 and there was a couple of plaster guys out there dumping bucket after bucket after bucket of water, you know, of the white water. And I'm going, hey, you can't put that down there. There's a white fish there. Anyway, all right, enough.
Okay, all right, so Jessica, you wanna continue?
She goes, oh God, Maloney's talking. Yeah.
I think I was done.
Okay, well, I just
Mhm.
didn't wanna, okay,
Well, I'm glad that's being separated in different areas now to look at stuff. Good.
yeah, I like that. Because you
We
don't
also
know.
separated the pool this year with the talks of merging or consolidating pools
Right.
with our neighbors. We thought we really need to see what's the true cost. To date, if you look at the budget status, we spent over $10,000 of personnel time that in the past was just coded to parks, is now being separated. It's specifically on its own line to show how much time staff is spending at the pools.
Good work.
Good work. Okay, any other questions, concerns on this one? Okay, and then Michael, at some point, you know, maybe just do some kind of a, not that you have to do it now, because this is your busy time, but at
Everything's
some
busy
point,
time.
if we could get
There
a,
isn't a non-busy time?
There isn't
Yeah.
a non-busy time.
there isn't, okay. Just kind of get a idea of what, you know, because like you say, it isn't that long that the TIF is gonna be closed, and we're gonna need to look at that anyway, I think.
Mhm.
All right, moving on. Just looking here. Then. Okay, item 10, discussion and or action, budget amendments for TIF 1 capital projects. TIF 1 special revenue. I hadn't marked off.
This was talked about last time. I brought this back. Again, I feel bad. The first time I did fail to put the committee action, Public Works Committee actually approved this project. So when we're talking about CIP projects and large projects like this, a lot of times the projects themselves get approved at Parks and Public Works. The reason why we take them to those, because those are the committees that actually talk about the conditions of the roads and the needs in the parks. Finance, we're talking about the financing of that and the affordability to the taxpayers. So for the TIF, one of the things that maybe I didn't put good recommendations, but one of the things is we approve the TIF amendments, or the recommendation would be for staff needs to complete the projects within the adopted budget. So Michael did include information on here that was requested last time, but I did want to talk about the expectations when we bring stuff to finance. We used to bring the CIP plan to finance, and in the past, we did not. We stopped doing that just for the fact that these projects are being discussed at length in the other committees. And we're encouraging anyone who really wants to learn about these projects and why they're being recommended to actually go to the other committees that were, it's being talked about, so. Anyway, if Michael wants to, do you want to talk about what you put in the packet?
Yeah, I guess so, just follow up to kind of show the current condition of the roadways out there, the curb and gutter, why we were looking at that area in the first place. The roads are from kind of the early 2000s, so they're in that 20 to 25 year range. They've been seal coated, they've been crack sealed, and I wouldn't say they're all bad. They're around 5 to 7 on pacer, different segments. Some are worse where water's been ponding or the curb and gutter pushes up. So there's some pictures there where the curb's just gone. Those situations every year that gets progressively worse because we will catch it with a plow and kind of keep chipping it. Water gets in, the freeze thaw cycle just kind of keeps popping it. So I forget what dollar amount I put in there, but I mean, even just looking at the curb and gutter, the inlet repairs, even, if we wanted to look at reseal coating that, there's areas where the second layer of asphalt is gone. So we'd have to go in and mill those out and refill those voids. So the cheapest option would probably be to try to patch this at about 300 to 400,000, which would get us maybe another, 5-10 years, and then we're looking at it again. So if we didn't have a better funding mechanism, I'd probably be saying that's what we're planning to do in 2026 is to mill out these wheel paths, put in a bunch of new curb and gutter, repair the inlets, and we'd keep chipping away at that rate, which is doable. And then at some point we would need to look at a full reconstruct or repaving in there. So
If phase 2 and phase 3, would that be the same year, but just 2 different times?
correct, yeah, so when we bid it out,
Do 2 and then come back and do 3 once 2 is done.
correct, yeah.
So there's always an alternate route.
Yeah.
And then does phase 3 take me down to Camp Phillips? Or how far down? I see the blue little circles going down Weston Avenue. How far does it go?
Yeah, that'd take you to where the concrete meets the asphalt there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna stand corrected here because I was, not really in favor of this and, we're losing 5 years. It's absolutely because I go out there so often. I'm out there all the time. I don't see it anymore. I just want to see what I want to see. And when I saw these pictures, I went out there, I could not believe the curbing. I mean, I don't know how you patch some of that stuff. I don't know if 400,000 or 500,000 would do it. I just don't. I mean, it is in really, really rough shape. And I almost wonder, did it fail? Or is it just that much traffic? Because I go around neighborhoods and I don't see failure like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Some
some
really bad ones.
some of it's salting on concrete. That was an era where I think concrete producers were experimenting with different types of mixes, and
Okay.
a lot of those joints really have opened up where we've got concrete from the 90s that is still solid, and we've got, concrete,
The area is kept in really good repair. I mean, they're out there, they've got, Revi out there. I've seen Marshfield Clinic people out there directing people with shrubbery and trees. And so, yeah, it would definitely lend itself to, the hotel is doing some more stuff.
What control do you have over the concrete? What I'm saying is that if you have stuff from the 90s that is still
Yeah.
perfect, why would we tolerate them not using it that way?
So, I mean, Hushang maybe has the history on this better than I do, but I mean, admixtures change, people, science changes, people are like, hey, this is the next greatest thing, so they want to maybe change the cement and water ratio, and they think it's acceptable here, the air ratio. And over time, all of a sudden you go, oh, that was a bad idea, we didn't realize the negative effect that, a certain compound maybe has on that, maybe weakens the concrete over time, so. I think a lot of those things, recycled content in asphalt was another big thing that people were looking at in the early 2000s, where recycled shingles and asphalt got put into mixes so that we reduced the amount of new asphalt oil that went into an asphalt road. What ended up happening is roads started weathering a lot quicker because the amount of recycled content really wasn't making up for the new new oil going in, so the roads got brittle faster. And, you know, like Ross Avenue out here was one of those where it cracked, it grayed out, it weathered way faster than it should have. So we ended up repaving that sooner than it did. And, you know, the DOT will approve things after, you know, they do their testing. So then a lot of times it becomes a DOT approved mix, and that's generally accepted as what the concrete mix or the asphalt mix for a certain project is. And you rely on, you know, those engineers, those scientists to say this has been vetted thoroughly through our testing and laboratory process. So I think in recent years, we've had other things where certain concrete producers have had issues. We've made them come back, rip it out, and those issues seem to be corrected after they've had to remove a lot of their
I
products.
seem to remember that there was some stuff that was brought before the board where we had to approve some additional fly ash that mistakenly was added or something that.
That would have been before my time. I know fly ash was one of those admixtures where they're trying to find
Or something like that.
Dennis has got one. Okay, Dennis.
So if $400,000 gets us 10 years, will 5 times that a number get us 25 years? That's not 4 times the length. So
Yeah,
what's that on a value for money conversation? What's the better value?
I mean, I'd say starting fresh, I mean, the 400,000 maybe gets you that on part of it. I wouldn't be able to say, you know, there might be more inlets that fail. There might be other spots of curb and gutter that fail. So I mean, you kind of end up chasing it eventually until you finally say, we're gonna start back fresh.
So if we spend the 2.3 or 2.27, does that, how long, that's a total?
Yeah, so that, I would say that would get us the 25.
25.
It should at least get us 25, if not more.
And that's it, and that covers everything, a replacement of all 1, 2, and 3 phase?
Correct, yeah, and I guess that's maybe the biggest thing. Jessica has what page is that on?
Well, then aesthetically too.
Yeah.
By doing all the patching, and then as long as you're patching the obvious, some of the not obvious is actually deteriorating,
Correct.
you know, by next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so like on page
Yeah.
82 is maybe one of the big things that we were looking at as staff is we have the ability to pay for this in cash. So say it's, I think she used 1.65 million. If we defer this and someday we borrow for this project, I mean, that's an extra 750,000 in interest we'd end up paying for the same work. So
Yeah.
Okay, Hushain.
The Schofield Avenue, first time when we built it, that concrete lasts only 1 year.
Right, I was gonna comment on
Yeah.
that.
Then we end up ripping off everything and redoing it, and that wasn't the only one project. Schofield Avenue was one of the project. They had few other around the state, and all the mix was approved by DOT. And, you know, we take it as a gospel when it said DOT approve. That shouldn't be it, really. Because they make a mistake as anybody else. People come and sell it to them, it's a good mix, they buy it, and it's not it. And that was a good case of it.
The contractor. Do it.
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
Is that a contractual thing then, that is written into the contract, so that's DOT approved as opposed to Mike approved?
no.
it's
no.
whatever specification we use. So you can
We just
spec,
use it.
yeah,
Okay.
you can specify it has to be a DOT mix. I mean, like for asphalt, we do have a Weston mix out there that we've utilized for the past at least 6-7 years that we actually won an American Asphalt Pavement Award from that, but
It's in the lobby.
yeah. But it does give us what we found better longevity on our pavements, you know? That is the hard part, you know, the DOT, their requirement is they test it and they try to find the 25-year road, right? Like their road fails at year 25. And I've always told you guys that we can't afford to have our roads fail at year 25. Our roads need to last. You know, right now we're in about a 40-year replacement cycle on our streets, so. You know, we're trying to get them so that it's a once every 40-year road, not a once every 20 to 25-year road. So,
Well, everybody else done?
Well,
I think too, that we need to, not only does it need the repair, but we have the money in the TIF to do it. And if we wait, it's going to go onto the tax roll. And
Costs us money.
it's gonna cost us a lot more because we'll have to, like I said,
$750,000.
you'll have to borrow for it. So I think it's very prudent that we do it now rather than.
This year or next year?
Or, well, whenever.
It'd happen this year.
Oh, what? Wow. Oh, that'd be fantastic.
And I agree with you, Barbara. I think how would we justify spending $750,000 in interest to the taxpayer when we could have done it for, well, not free, but for free?
Right.
You
Right.
know? Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, and we are improving the TIF area, so it isn't
True.
like we're doing it outside or something,
Good point. Good
you know.
point.
I have a question, Mike.
Linda.
Oh, Linda, okay,
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said, and you are definitely the expert at that, not me. I have a question about the money allocation. Is it only allowed to be in this area, or is this for an additional road such as Shorey? Going off of Ryan, now that Weston
Yeah.
is closed?
No, yeah, so Shory's not in the
Incredibly
TIF.
dangerous.
Yeah, so Shory is scheduled for repaving. That contract's been awarded. That's a timing issue with the Weston Ave project, just so we don't have both of those east-west corridors south of the highway closed at the same time. So, hopefully Shory can make it about another 2 weeks.
Oh,
And then
gotcha, okay,
They'll get repaved, but
It's not in the TIF.
but it's not in the TIF, so we
Gotcha.
can't use this
Okay.
money for Shory, correct?
okay, but it's already happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Scheduled. Okay, thank you.
From-
yeah, you
from-
did note they took the patchwork out of the holes
Well, yeah.
to work
So
on it,
bad.
ready to work on it, I mean, it got worse, so.
And it's from Camp Phillips to Anastasia.
Anastasia, and then we'll be doing some additional patching all the way to Zinzer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else on that? Okay, so, we need, action on to, let's see, well. Do you
I'll make a
approve the
motion.
proposed TIF amendments,
Brent's gonna.
as presented, or if you could.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we amend the TIF budget to include the additional 1.27 million to complete all the projects.
Okay,
I second that.
Second by,
Dennis.
okay. On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carried. New business, discussion and or action on budget amendment for Fund 20.
So when the Fund 20 budget was originally adopted in October, we still had great intentions of getting the Kennedy Park contract signed. With that signature before the end of the year, we could have used our ARPA funds for that. But without a signature, we had to move our ARPA funds to the street projects. So I am proposing basically zeroing out this fund, so since we will not be spending any funds in it.
Zero, we're not losing it, we're just zeroing this fund, right?
We are not using this fund was used for ARPA funds and
Right.
ARPA funds
Okay.
are spent.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, it just was a
Yep. Got it.
switch of
Yep.
accounts and not really.
So this is a net savings of $70,000, is that what you're saying?
No, we're just recording every expenditure that we had budgeted for in a different fund. We only used Fund 20 for ARPA. Basically, it was a fund we used all our grant funds in. And because we had to spend our grant funds in 24, this fund really shouldn't exist anymore. We record all our capital items in either 40, which is a TIF, or 41 facilities, 42 streets, and 44 equipment. So it's just recorded elsewhere.
Okay, so what's your pleasure?
Move to approve?
Motion by Maloney,
I'll second.
second by Steve. On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, so carried. Update on PFAS settlement money.
So during the November 20th, 2023 board meeting, the village board voted to stay within the DuPont and 3M class action settlements on June 6th. We received our first payment from one of those settlements. We'll be receiving approximately 2 to 3 installments for the 3M between calendar years 25 and 26. The DuPont one has not been determined yet. But
Is
at
there-
least we got some money, so that's exciting.
Is there an estimation of higher than the 3M or over or under 3M? Any thought, is there at all? No?
So, I mean, the 3M total is the 1.871.
Right.
DuPont, BASF and Tyco are the three other ones that we have submitted our information for. My guess is overall, we're gonna be in about a $2.2 to $2.3 million range. 3M was the largest one
Total range?
total.
Or, oh, okay.
Yeah, so so the rest of them will probably be about a $400,000 to $500,000 in total. This one was the big one with 3M.
Okay.
I would assume that money would be going towards the water utility to treatment facilities and to reimburse us on treatment facilities or whatever.
Correct, yeah, I guess that, I mean, that's one thing we bring forward at another meeting, but I'm talking with Jessica, our thought is the utilizing this PFAS settlement money to kind of set aside a PFAS account, so as we have to exchange media and pay for that disposal, it is its own kind of PFAS fund that we don't end up, utilizing it on a one-time expense now and then have to raise our utility rates because
Right.
treatment costs go up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it stayed where it came from.
Yep.
Is it for
PFAS
oper-
abatement.
I'm sorry, is it for operating? Or
It can be
for-
used for whatever you want.
Or- Or for equipment?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the lawsuit goes, you get the money and you do what you want, you just.
No, but what I'm saying is, has utilities put together a plan for, we have sufficient equipment right now or not?
So,
Or
no,
is this money
so
gonna be used for that? Or-
well 4 is currently under construction for granular activated carbon tanks. So that we had a safe drinking water loan that we got, so we're in the process of getting those installed, which has a 50% principal forgiveness with it, so that's, about $1.5 million that we won't have to pay for that project. And then we're also in the process of submitting our safe drinking water loan with the principal forgiveness for emerging contaminants for well 3. So we'll max out our clean water fund loan ability there between those two projects. And then this would be for the ongoing maintenance expense of that equipment.
Any other questions or concerns on this? Okay, and there is no action needed. Any remarks from staff? All right.
I guess the only thing I do have is, I guess for the PFAS one, our utility superintendent, Josh Swenson, did put a lot of the time and effort into putting that together. We were approached by multiple law firms that said, we can help you with this. A lot of that work, included a 30 to 40% off the top take from those law firms. So if you look at, what that would have been, I mean, that's a huge savings for having staff able to handle that, the data and submittals. So-
Huge.
That's outstanding.
Yeah. Put up,
So if you see Josh, he does do things around here that are worthwhile.
yeah. Very
Are you
good.
convincing yourself or?
No, sometimes people don't know what we do here, and I guess
Well,
that's.
Oh, no, I agree. I agree.
I think.
Just the way you said it.
Yeah.
Funny.
Okay, remarks from committee members. Mark,
All good.
Shane?
Not there.
You're not there.
I'm not here.
Well, you're filling a
Steve.
vacancy. You're filling a vacancy.
Yeah. Hey, and I have nothing. Just thanking everybody for being here and the staff for their reports. Future items, next meeting, July 21st at 5 p.m. Does that sit well with everyone? Okay.
Because of tourism?
Tourism will be in July.
Okay.
I mean, tourism will be with the around finance time. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
But
Second.
by fire on the question, not on the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned at 5:22.